Okay, let's in this video we will see how the Todo application works with React as front end. And here I started the server. Okay, the npm starts the server, and again I did a npm start in the React client, and after I did this right, I'm able to see. So this is a React server. React server is running on 3000, and my server backend server is running on 5000. So I'm able to see this. Let's try to understand how this is displayed. Okay. So when you come to React, right? React, as I told you before, in React you can have functional components. Functional components are nothing but function which returns the HTML content. So for this part, I can have one component. Okay, let's call it to-do form. So I will be calling this component to-do form. Okay, this component, right? This is how you call a component, the function, right? This will return this HTML content. Okay, and for this component, I will call some get to do. This component will return this HTML content. Okay, but if you take this component, right, this component is basically all our static content. If you just have the HTML, that is enough. But this component get to do, it has to get all these items from the backend, and then it has to display here. So I will have two components and it will do the job for me. This is the design. Okay, as usual in any React application, you have this create root. We are going to render all our HTML content. This app component is going to render all our HTML content. Okay, so the React strict mode, right? It gives us, when you type any wrong code, right? It gives us warning. Okay, so this is not advisable to have this React strict mode in production environment. In production environment, you have to remove this because this will decrease your performance. This is while developing, when you type anything wrong, right? It will help you to code correctly. So better to avoid this in production environment. So we are going to render all our HTML content in this root. This root is nothing but this element, right, which is there in our present in our HTML file. Okay, I'm going to render all the HTML elements in this only. Okay, so I'm calling the app component. Okay, so app component, let's see what it is doing. As I told you, app component is calling two components, right? To do form and get to do. Okay, so let's go to the to do form. This to do form are present in the components form.js. Okay, so this to do form is returns the HTML content. Simple. Okay, it has a h1 tag, label, input, and the button. Right. That is what is there in the uh, first component. Right. Okay, so it returns that. So I'm having an ID. Right. I'm giving some ID for this one so that it will be styled accordingly. Okay, the style for all these things is there in the app.css for class name form. Okay, for the button. Okay, for the title and description, all the styles are available in the app.css, and the style is included here, imported here. Okay, this is how the to-do form is. To-do form is so simple. Okay, it is in the form.js. Second, I'm calling the get-to-do. Get-to-do in this to-do.js. Okay, so in this, right, this get-to-do function, first thing I have to get the data from the backend. That is the first job I have to do. How you get the first data from the backend? I have to do it only once. So I'm calling the get data in the use effect hook. So in the use effect hook, I'm calling the get data. The dependency is null. So the use effect, right, it has two arguments, right? One is a function, another dependency. If the dependency is empty, this function will be called only once in the first render alone. So this get data will be called only once. In the get data, I'm sending a get request, okay, to my backend, which is running on 5000. Okay, dot then this access os dot get returns a promise. and dot, then when the promise resolves, this function is called. This is nothing but a function, right? This function is called. In this function, whatever data I got, right, in the response dot data, I am setting that data in my state variable. This is a array because I'm getting lot of to dos. Okay, so this is an array. I'm setting it here. So now we got the data. Okay, once I set the data, right, you are updated as state variable, correct? So the component will re-render. Okay, so what happens next? Okay, so here the simple thing is, right, if you go here, this all these high, buy, see, all these are line items, correct? It should be under a UL tag. Okay, so under a UL tag, I'm looping over all the items. Okay, every time I loop, what is the map function? Array dot map you have to put, correct? Inside there is a function. Okay, in Java you have to use this parenthesis. Okay, okay, and then I need to have a line item. Okay, so in the line item, right, what I have to display? This item dot title colon item dot description. That is what I have to display. This is title colon description. That is what I have to display. And then two button, right? Edit and delete button. And I styled it for styling. I use this ID. When I click this, okay, I am having an arrow function and I'm calling update item. Okay, right now update item to do is empty. Okay, I can also call the function straight away like this, right? Instead of calling like this, I can give the update to do like this. Okay, like this I can give. But in this case, right, I cannot pass any argument. So it is better to have an arrow function, and in the arrow function, you can call our actual function and pass any argument. Okay, so this is how we have this is basically iterating to all the element and we are putting it in the line item. Okay, if you see, right, the difference between JavaScript and React. Okay, in JavaScript, how did we do this? Let's go to the JavaScript code. Okay, this is the todo.js, right? So to fetch and display the data, right? How we did it? You have to manipulate the DOM. This is how you are getting, right? This is the fetch data. As same case, you are getting all the data. You are setting the request, getting the data, and then what you are doing? You are going and changing the DOM. You are using the changing the browser DOM, correct? Okay. So again, when you want to get the data, what you are doing? Again, you are going emptying the DOM. This you are emptying DOM and you are populating the DOM again. You are creating every time you are creating a line item. In the line item, you are putting this data. Okay, you are putting the data like this, and then you are appending a child. Okay, all the things you are doing, right? So in while using plain JavaScript, what you have done? Basically, your first thing you are getting a data, and then that part, right? That part of the DOM which is rendering the content, right? That part you are emptying it. Okay, you have emptied it here. You have emptied it here, and then third, what you are doing? You have got the data, right? You are looping over all the data, and then you are updating the DOM. Now you are creating an element every time, right? You are updating the DOM. Okay, so to update the DOM, you are using this document.element by ID, text content you are changing, ID you are putting. Okay, so this is a small application. You can do this. Okay, now updating the DOM, right, is a costly operation. It takes time to update the DOM, right? It takes time. Okay, in the React side, what you are doing? This is what you are doing, right? Updating. This is what you are doing in plain JavaScript. Okay. Let's go to the React and see what we are doing in the React side. Okay. See the amount of code here and here. Here you have to loop through all the items. You have to go update the DOM. In React, what is that? This much is the code you have to write. Okay. So what you are doing in React is the same thing. You are getting the data. In the use effect hook, you are getting the data. Right? In the use effect get all, here you are getting the data. And you are setting in a state variable. Okay. Use state is a hook. Okay. There are different hooks. Use state allows your functional component to access React features. Okay. This is nothing but a variable. It returns two values. One is the variable, second is a function. So to update this variable. Okay. So when you get the data, right, you are using this function to update this variable. The set data will basically whatever the data you are passing, right, this data will be assigned to this variable. When this variable is updated using set data, this component will re-render. Right, render again. Right, this is one of the features of React, because any data changes in your application, right, you have to render that. You have to update the DOM, right? That React does it automatically. Makes our life simple. Okay. So what you are doing it here, you are getting the data, that's fine. And then with the data, you update a state variable. Update a state variable. Okay. Your state variable. Okay. Third, what you are doing, you are looping over the data. Same what is done here. Okay. You are looping over the data. And then what you are doing, you are not writing code to update the DOM. In the loop, you are, let's see the loop. In the loop, you are just writing the HTML content. Right? You are looping over and putting the HTML content straight away. What it has to be there. Okay. In the HTML content, you are inserting the data here itself inside the HTML content. Okay. So updating the ROM, React does it for you. Okay. React updates is update that does it for you. You have to create an HTML element right here. You have to create a document dot create element by ID li. This has to happen, right? This all React is doing for you. So writing a code becomes simple in React. So what is the advantage of React? React is a library, JavaScript library used to develop UI components, UI interfaces, user interface, right? UI components, okay. And second advantage is these components, right? These components are nothing but function which returns HTML content. So you can reuse that. We can reuse it for another purpose. Like how functions, you can reuse functions, right? By passing different arguments, you can reuse the functions. Like that, you can reuse the components. Third is, here while updating the DOM, first what we did, we emptied the content, right? This is what we did. We emptied the DOM and then we updated. But React, what it will do is, it will maintain a copy of your DOM. That is called VDOM, virtual DOM. So this is, let's assume this is browser DOM. Browser DOM. So this React, right, it maintains a copy of our DOM, copy of the browser DOM it contains. Okay. Now what it does it, after this update, right, it creates another updated DOM. This is updated DOM. The VDOM, right, it is having, right, it's a copy of the virtual DOM. Okay, so basically what you are updating, and before updating the browser DOM, you keep a copy here and then update. Okay, and then you go update it. Second time you update, right, when you update, what happens is you compare with the VDOM. Whatever changes you have done, right, that changes alone you update to the browser DOM. You are not emptying completely and updating the DOM completely. Only some items would have changed, correct? Those items alone compare and update those contents alone in the browser DOM. This will significantly improve the performance. Okay, previously when you are using this, whenever you want to get any data, right, you empty completely and update newly. So every time you have to create a line item, every time you have to update the DOM, which is very expensive, takes a lot of time. Here, whatever is changed, right, that element alone, that object alone will be updated. Okay, so DOM is what representation of your HTML document, right? Another way you represent your HTML document in a document object model. So every element you can treat as an object. So whichever element is changed, right, that object alone will be updated in the browser DOM. Okay, so this significantly improves the performance.